Texas is one giant lie. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through why I believe that. This is a state that spent years marketing itself as the final affordable paradise left in America. Roomy houses, zero state income tax, enormous stakes, cowboy hats, and so much state pride it could run a regional cult. Look, Texas can absolutely be great. Let me say that up front before some guy in a lifted truck blows a gasket down in the comments. There are jobs, there's culture, there's the food, there's history, and there are some truly lovely spots to settle. But Texas also has a knack for taking newcomers down a peg when they roll in, convinced they've outsmarted everybody. And that's the moment the regret kicks in for people who relocated to the Lone Star State. Those are the reasons we're digging into today. Coming in at number 10, low taxes, the biggest lie of them all. This is the headline, Texas pitch. No state income tax. Folks hear those 4 words and immediately picture themselves backstroking through spare cash like Scrooge McDuck holding a Costco card. Then the property tax struts in like a jackbooted hall monitor and pockets your lunch money. It's true that Texas charges no state income tax, which is lovely, but the state still has to fund itself somehow. Roads, schools, emergency services, the public works, none of that runs on brisket fumes and those don't mess with Texas bumper stickers, so the money has to be clawed back elsewhere. And the great big revenue engine here is property tax. The Lone Star State sits at number 7 nationwide for the priciest legalized mugging. Property taxes. This blindsides a lot of folks, particularly the ones coming from somewhere with steep home prices but steadier, more predictable tax bills. Out here, you can scoop up what seems like a reasonable house, then find out the yearly tax tab is hefty enough that the whole purchase starts to smell like a bait and switch. And this doesn't land on owners alone. Renters catch it too. No landlord stares at a fat property tax bill and goes, I'll just eat this one, because deep down, I'm a housing humanitarian. That cost gets folded right into your rent. Congrats. You dodged income tax back in your old state and strolled straight into a fresh batch of tax headaches, now with a cowboy hat and boots. Texas isn't tax-free. It's playing tax hide and seek. At number 9, HOA culture, otherwise known as suburban parole. People flock to Texas chasing freedom. Big skies, generous yards, a touch of independence, maybe a grill, a dog, and the fantasy of finally having enough garage room for 8 plastic tubs, all labeled miscellaneous. Then they close on a house in a master-planned community and learn the HOA wields more authority over their daily existence than a few small-town mayors do. Thinking of repainting the front door a marginally different blue? Better start filling out forms like you're requesting clearance for a weapon system that comes with a nuclear submarine. Left your truck parked in the driveway a beat too long? Enjoy a letter. Lawn looking a touch shaggy? Letter incoming. Garbage bin sitting curbside 11 minutes past schedule? Letter. Mailbox not quite matching the approved aesthetic? Letter, and it's got an attitude. Texas adores branding itself as the homeland of personal liberty. Yet plenty of neighborhoods run like miniature suburban monarchies governed by a woman named Brenda, armed with a clipboard and a pair of dang binoculars. Always with the binoculars. There's a genuinely surreal feeling that hits when you relocate to a state celebrated for its independent streak, and then a committee informs you that the mulch in your flower bed is spiritually unacceptable. Number 8. The myth that Texas is cheap. There was a time when Texas was where folks from pricey states could roll in, land a nice house, and still have cash to spare for patio furniture, a backyard smoker, and a truck too big for any normal parking space. That's the Texas fantasy, and tons of people swallowed it whole. But these days, that version of Texas only survives in scattered pockets, and they're tougher and tougher to track down in the spots people genuinely want to live. Austin shot up. Dallas shot up. Houston has neighborhoods that feel doable, right up until you tally the insurance, the taxes, the utilities, the tolls, and the spiritual toll of upkeep there. San Antonio still beats most other big cities on price, but even there, the numbers aren't frozen back in 2009. The trouble is that the reputation hasn't synced up with the present. People keep describing Texas like it's a clearance rack with a side of barbecue. So when they actually arrive and discover their budget-friendly Texas life comes bundled with a $3,000 mortgage, climbing insurance, toll roads, and a grocery bill that makes you wince in the checkout line, you start to wonder whether everybody lied or you just fell for some dusty old marketing. Back in 2005, Texas ranked 8th lowest in the country for overall cost of living. By 2025, it had slid to 15th. Not a catastrophe, but the arrow's pointing the wrong way. It's still cheaper than California or New York, sure, but it's more like a financial bear trap. Now, on to number 7, the so-called friendly Texas neighbor. The state carries a reputation for friendliness, and loads of Texans genuinely are. Some will pitch in to lug your couch, have you over for a cookout, wave from the porch, and walk you through the local customs as if you're some foreign exchange student newly arrived from Oregon. But don't mistake Southern courtesy for everybody wanting to be your buddy. They don't. They're simply being polite. In certain places, especially the fast-ballooning suburbs, folks are just worn out. And if you've come out of California, New York, Washington State, Oregon, or any place that gets blamed for wrecking Texas, well, congratulations. You might get treated like a walking tax increase. People can be perfectly pleasant to your face, but the instant you mention where you came from, the temperature in the room shifts. All at once, you stop being a neighbor. You become a demographic event. You might be the kindest soul on earth. You rescue puppies. You wheel stray shopping carts back to the corral. And somebody will behave as though you personally hauled in the condo developers and the oat milk. Texas hospitality is the real deal. So is the Texas side-eye. File that away. Number 6. The local pride can get to be a lot. Every state's got pride. Texas has pride complete with a fog machine, stadium lights, and a fireworks finale. Most Texans don't merely reside in Texas. They put on a performance in Texas. That flag is on everything. The shape of the state turns up on shirts, hats, belt buckles, cutting boards, waffle irons, porch signs, wall decor, wedding setups, baby onesies, tattoos, and probably a couple of medical instruments at your next colonoscopy. If Texas were legally allowed to stamp the Texas outline onto the moon, it'd already be up there, and they'd have followed it with a resolution crowing about the achievement. At first, it reads as kind of endearing. After a while, though, you start to feel like you signed up for a brand rather than relocated to a state. Texas pride is a blast right up until you notice it doubles as a round-the-clock security system shielding the place from even gentle criticism. Back during my time in the military, I served alongside a bunch of folks from Texas, and I was around people from every corner of the country, plenty from Iowa, a good number from Washington, D.C., a handful from New Jersey, a few New Yorkers, and then New Hampshire. It was almost like they'd grouped us by region, a massive contingent from California. And of everyone I ever crossed paths with, the Texans were the ones absolutely obsessed with their home state. Every one of them had a flag hanging in their room. Everyone had some Texas-themed bumper sticker. Everyone owned cowboy hats. Their devotion to Texas was strange. And what was stranger still, the runner-up in pride of all the places on the map was New Jersey. Who on earth takes pride in New Jersey? Beats me. But the Texans, I'm telling you, they're basically a cult. Hand to God. Number 5. The food is going to wreck your body. It's a tasty con job. Honestly, the food is one of the best arguments for relocating there at all. Tex-Mex, barbecue, breakfast tacos, chicken fried steak, colaches, burgers, queso, anything they can throw in a smoker, and serving size is generous enough to count as cheesy quicksand. The catch is that Texas food doesn't politely suggest you indulge. It seizes you by the collar and hauls you into a booth. You arrive figuring you'll sample the local hits on weekends. Then out of nowhere, it's a Tuesday and you're working through brisket, tortillas, and something smothered in cheese purely because it happened to be close by. Texas does not make restraint convenient. Texas eyeballs a salad and says, "Adorable, now let's pile on a steak, some ranch tortilla chips, and a few emotional consequences." Transplants don't see it coming. They figure they're heading out there for opportunity, affordability, and an upgraded lifestyle. Half a year later, they've got passionate takes on smoked sausage and have to stroll around the block after lunch just to feel human again. Texas serves some of the finest food in the nation. Sadly, your belt is not braced for any of it. Believe me, I adore Tex-Mex. Barbecue too. I could happily blow days in Texas doing nothing but eating. Say you're planning a couple of days down there. Map out where you're going to eat. Research the top spots, because if you just snag some McDonald's on your way to wherever, you're robbing yourself blind. Do the food homework before you head out for that quick visit. Say you'll be around Dallas-Fort Worth. Hunt down the best taco joint, track down the best Tex-Mex, treat the whole thing like scheduled appointments, and just go. Savor it. You'll thank me down the road. Your belt buckle, not so much. Number 4, the political bubble can wear you out. You don't have to be political yourself to grow sick of politics in Texas. Politics tracks you down. It surfaces in school bars, ard brawls, neighborhood Facebook groups, business signage, truck decals, family dinners, the local news, public meetings, and total strangers who decide the grocery checkout line is the ideal venue to explain all of civilization to you. And it cuts both directions. Texas is not one big uniform conservative postcard. The major cities lean blue. The suburbs are a tangle. The rural stretches run deep red. And everybody seems dead certain the other team is scheming to topple society with zoning ordinances and reusable shopping bags. We've all met those folks. They'll post ignorant stuff online, acting like you despise America purely because you don't see eye to eye with them. You bump into a heavy dose of that down here. If you happen to be someone who just wants to get on with life, raise the kids, clock in at work, and now and then enjoy a taco without a lecture on the collapse of the nation, Texas can wear you thin. The culture war refuses to stay parked on the television. It strolls into your actual life sporting a Texas shirt and lugging a yard sign. You may relocate to Texas thinking, I steer clear of politics. That's adorable. Texas politics will get involved with you whether you consent or not. Now, I'm not knocking either party here. Every state has its political crowd, and I label them zealots because they're consumed by it. It runs their entire life, and it happens on both ends of the spectrum. I'm not aiming fingers at anybody. There are just certain people who live and breathe this stuff, and they want to talk everyone's ear off about it and post it at everyone too. There's a serious amount of that happening in Texas. Every single trip I've taken down there, I think, wow, these folks sure love chattering about politics or plastering it across bumper stickers, yard signs, and flags of every size. Number 3, the schools are a complete coin flip. Tons of families relocate to Texas chasing the suburbs, the houses, the elbow room, the promise of a better life for the kids. And yes, Texas has some outstanding school districts. A few are genuinely excellent, well-funded, competitive, and stacked with extracurriculars that make a high school feel like a small college throwing pep rallies. But the chasm between districts can be enormous. Here's one thing I've got to tell you about football in Texas, and honestly, their baseball too. You'll roll up to a high school stadium and think to yourself that plenty of universities in other states don't have stadiums this nice for their high school football. It's wild. And the whole town seems to show up for it. Anyway, back to schools. One suburb might boast top-rated campuses, packed stands, a robotics program, and enough involved parents to mount a moon landing. Drive a few miles over, and the next district might be underfunded, jammed past capacity, politically messy, and wrestling growth no mortal could keep up with. And because Texas expands like somebody dumped Miracle-Gro across a subdivision map, schools in the boom zones get swamped fast. Whole new neighborhoods just materialize as families flood in, and before long the district ends up playing educational Tetris using portable classrooms. Parents who skip their homework can really get caught off guard. They assume a nice suburb automatically equals great schools. That's exactly how you wind up at school board meetings where everyone's furious, nobody agrees, and the phrase temporary solution gets thrown around far too often. In Texas, the school district can carry as much weight as the house itself. Sometimes it matters more. Number 2, the pest situation. Hardly anyone talks enough about the bugs. Texas grows its bugs with swagger. Roaches, fire ants, mosquitoes, wasps, scorpions in certain areas, spiders, termites, and assorted mystery critters that look like they busted out of a government lab after devouring a lab tech named Gary. The fire ants, honestly, have earned their own congressional hearing. You don't simply walk near them. You open up a legal dispute with the soil itself. One moment, you're just planted there in your yard, and the next, your ankle is under siege from a swarm of tiny rage-bait employees. Then you've got the roaches. In Texas, some roaches aren't your standard dirty house roaches. They're the outside but decided to come inside variety. That distinction brings exactly zero comfort when one turns up in your bathroom at midnight, staring at you like it's current on rent. Newcomers from colder, drier places are routinely unready for just how alive Texas feels. The ecosystem here doesn't do subtle. It knocks, it crawls, it buzzes. Now and then it just gazes at you from the garage like it's already pulled your credit score. Texas is gorgeous, but the bugs strut around like they own the place first, since they did, and they've got zero intention of scaling back. All right, before we hit number 1, if you're in the mood for another solid video, there's one teed up at the end of this one, and I really hope you give it a watch. It's all about Cincinnati. Okay, back to it. And number 1, the Texas dream is turning crowded and corporate. This might be the sharpest letdown for anyone who moves to Texas expecting character, freedom, and a dose of authentic Lone Star magic. Much of fast-growing Texas these days feels less like a rugged go-it-alone state and more like one unending master-planned subdivision: chain restaurant, storage facility, car wash, toll road, and strip. Mall named after whatever trees got flattened to put it up. You come here expecting Texas. Instead, you land in the preserve at such-and-such creek where there's no preserve. The creek is really just a drainage ditch, and the entrance monument is better lit than your living room. I can't stand how they cook up these fancy labels for housing tracts. There's one not far from where we are called Arbor Vineyards. No vineyard for miles. It's only Arbor. That's just the name of the developer who built it, I'm fairly sure. But there it is, Arbor Vineyards. And then they'll dream up another one, something like Shady Creek Estates. Meanwhile, these houses run about $200,000. You don't get to slap estates on a $200,000 house. Probably pricier now, but that's how it was a few years back. This is the strange modern snare of Texas growth. The state is flat out booming, but the boomtown sprawl can leave whole areas feeling cloned. You get the same beige houses, the same retail strips, the same 15 restaurants, the same enormous pickups, the same fresh arrivals trying to convince themselves they landed somewhere one of a kind while idling in a drive-thru beside a mattress store and a dental office named Smile Ridge. Texas has heaps of genuine culture. You'll find it in the older neighborhoods, the smaller towns, the music scenes, the food traditions, the ranch and country and border culture, the golf communities, and the places that were around before developers got hold of the word luxury. But park yourself in the wrong corner of Texas and you might not feel like you landed in a legendary state. You'll feel like you moved into a spreadsheet with a Buc-ee's down the road. And that's the gut punch surprise. Plenty of people head to Texas chasing freedom, affordability, culture, room to breathe, and identity, then discover the version they were after is either expensive, way out of the way, micromanaged by an HOA, or buried under a subdivision called Heritage Oaks, where there's not a single oak and no heritage to speak of. Texas can still be wonderful, but it's no magic trick. It is not automatically affordable. It's not automatically free, and it is definitely not for everybody. So before you pack up, run the numbers, check the property taxes, dig into the school districts, read the HOA bylaws, scope out the bugs, and maybe spend a full week down there living like an actual resident instead of a tourist in brisket goggles, because Texas won't always break your heart outright. Sometimes it just bills you slowly for the privilege. All right, that's the video for today. If that one landed for you, you're going to enjoy this next one right here. It's all about Cincinnati. I genuinely love that video. Everybody, have a great day. Be good to one another.